Earnestly podcast coming to you on February 24th, 2022. I'm your host, Earnest EJ Christian, coming. Actually, the first solo pod we've done in a little while. Well, like this. I'm back on video. First solo pod on video for quite a while. Of course, Earnestly Podcast Network, Earnestly Podcast, you find on any podcast catcher, especially on Spotify, on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, you name it. A lot to get to. First off, I'm actually recording this in an empty household, which is very rare as it is. My wife's up in Orlando for the day. Went to Disney World, did a little girl's trip to Disney today, which is, obviously she needs that. And, we try to do that, these things now where, because of we're not able to have our own time and our work schedules are set in a way where whoever is not working is with the kids all the time, so we can avoid having to pay for babysitters and people to watch our children, which is another having to pay extra cost to do that. So we try to do it on our own, but sometimes when you make sacrifices like that, for example, it does tend to wear on you, and you don't have those moments where you need to get away and just kind of do your own thing. So we've had these things now in place now where we, she has a Disney pass, so she can go whenever she wants, and always encourage her at least, try to go away to have a girls' day, whatever. And luckily she has a lot of mom friends, especially too, that do these things. So I encourage her to do it. I had one 2 weeks ago, excursion, little guys trip. I think I may mention one of the shows I did recently. I went to see Tool in concert for the first time about 2 weeks ago. Actually, 2 weeks ago tonight. And I was actually nudged into doing it because I wanted to see them. They actually were a bucket list band for me for a long time, and that was a band I've been dying to see for years. And I know they were supposed to come here, I think 2 years ago, but then COVID happened, so I had to cancel the show, and then they rescheduled it recently. And I remember when they announced the show last year, I was like, okay, I want to go to the show. I do want to go to the show, but I didn't. You say those things like, okay, I'll go, maybe we'll see what happens, but then you don't really make it a priority, and that's something I don't really do much. As I have a hard time with, like, because I'm so focused on just things here at home and the family and making sure things are in place here that I don't take a lot of time for myself to do these things. And then sometime last month, my wife said, why don't you go to the Tool show? Like, I know you wanted to go. I know you're a fairly big fan of the band. I mean, and I am. I've been a fan for 20 plus years, and the band I definitely want to see for a long time. And I told her, I don't know, the money and this and that, and we have the money to do it. I could have gone. It's not a big deal. And then one of my coworkers said he had an extra ticket. Just pay him for it, whatever, and we can go. And then I've turned out that not only him, but a couple friends of mine were going to the show too. And then my wife kept saying, just go. Take the day off. Take a day to yourself, away from the kids. I'll take the kids a day. You do a lot for the house. You work a lot. Just go and do this. It's important for you to be there and to enjoy this, because you don't know when you don't know when they're going to tour again. Tool's not a band that is very active in the same way they've been, like, at least 20 years ago. They're a band that they've come once in the last, like, 7-8 years, I think. At least I don't remember them coming down here much in South Florida in the last 10 years, maybe once. They release an album once every couple of years. I mean, they released a new album 2 years ago for Inoculum, and prior to that, they hadn't released an album in I think 12 years before that, or 11 years before that. So they're not a band that's, no big deal, see them next time around. They're not that kind of band. If you don't catch them the first time, you may not get a second chance at doing it. So after being nudged and pushed and encouraged to go by friends and especially my wonderful wife Lauren, who she's fantastic. I said, fine, well, I'll go to the show. Fantastic show. I've been to many concerts in my life. Many. I mean, talking like hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds. I've seen many artists, many bands through the years. And I don't know where I'll place this show in Miami they played, but it's definitely a top 10 show for me all time. And I think a lot of it for me too, especially the fact that the expectations, not to say they weren't high, because they were high. I mean, obviously the Tool, the visual band, they have, what they bring to the table. But because I'm not one of those diehards in the same way, I think I had lower expectations also too on top of that. And I don't know every single song by heart. A big fan. Like, now, if I saw Metallica in concert, for example, I know every single riff, everything, you name it. Queen, Michael Jackson, when I saw him in 2001, every single note in lyric, whatever. I love Tool, but I don't know every single song. Like certainly, I didn't know a good chunk of the new album, and I've heard it once, but it wasn't something that I replay over and over again. Tool is an acquired taste. Like Tool's, as much as I love Tool, Tool's the kind of band you don't play. They're one of those bands that they're not a radio rotation band for me anyway. That I play every other day, every week. I may get in the mood like once every few months, or every few years, when it's in Tool. So they're acquired taste. They're not for everybody. They're an intellectual band. Like if you're a musician, especially too, they're an intellectual band that not for everybody. But that's a top 10 show because they put on a great show. They put on a great show, and not just because the music. Obviously, the music is fantastic, and the musicianship of the guys with Maynard and everybody else there, but also the stage show and what they do, the visuals and all that. It's about the music. Like you see, like for example, where like Maynard obviously is the quote unquote front man, but he's really not a front man. Like I think I maybe saw him twice the entire night in front of the stage, or close to front of the stage performing, if at all. He was on the sides, or he was on the top of the loft, and next to the drummer. It's a band that seems equal. It seems like, okay, I'm gonna give the drummer and the bassist and the guitar player the glory, and Maynard's in the background. It's a different dynamic that you'll see from any other band that plays music, especially rock music. But top 10 show. I had a fantastic night with friends. We went down there early because it's Miami. So I live in Palm Beach County. So it's about an hour and a half it's about an hour to get down there with no traffic. The problem is the time we're going. It's on a Thursday, number one. Number two, we were going down there right before rush hour traffic. We didn't leave till about 4 o'clock. So we ran into a little bit of rush hour traffic into Palm Beach and in Miami-Dade. Luckily, we got there by 5 o'clock, 5:15-ish. We got a little detoured because we took the wrong exit off in Biscayne in Miami. But we figured that out. We were able to get there in time. We were able to get there in time, park, and still go to Bayside to get some food. I wanted to go to the Hard Rock Cafe to eat because there's normally when I go to Bayside, when I go to Heat games, for example, my traditions, if I go early enough, to try to avoid buying food at the arena, because obviously the arena food is expensive as hell. I try to go to a restaurant, in Bayside and eat there, whoever I go with. And by the time I get to the game or go to wherever I'm going to at the arena, I'm already full. I'm not worried about buying food there. Maybe I'll buy a drink there, but that's about it. But I wanted to go to Hard Rock Cafe, but apparently they were seating was the wait was like 40 something minutes, and we didn't want to wait 40 minutes to sit. So he went to the place under it, the Land Shark, whatever we call it, place, fish and chips place, below Hard Rock. It was okay, decent food, but we had a good time. We ate there, stayed about maybe an hour, and then we went to the arena. And it was a fantastic show. I saw some old friends there. I saw my old drummer actually at the show. It's funny, like I've seen him twice in the last 5 years. Raphael. And both times I've seen him were at concerts. I saw him at Metallica, which I knew he was there too because he had told me he was going to when I put on the social media that was on the Metallica concert back in 2017. He had said he was going to the show, and I said, okay, well, hopefully meet up there. And we actually got we met up each other and whatever. But then I didn't know he was at Tool. And then I ran into him and his wife, and dude, I posted a picture on my social media. You guys probably seen it already if you haven't seen it, on both Instagram and Facebook. Great time. Best drummer I've ever played with by far. I've played many drummers to my life. He's by far the best drummer I've ever played with, as a bass player. So it was great to see him again. He's in a band right now that's actually doing pretty well on they're actually on the Billboard charts right now, rock charts right now. So he's doing some good stuff, man. Really proud of him. But the show was great. We went to the concert. It was a fantastic time. Got home later than I wanted to, but we expected that too because the show ran past 11 o'clock, and getting out of Miami is not really easy. And then Dan, we had 2 detours that I take also on 95 because of construction and whatnot. So I didn't get home really till 2 o'clock. And the thing with me is that I have to go take my oldest son to school in the morning at 7:30, which means I had very little sleep and I had to work all day the next day. I had to work a long day. So it was a little bit of a tiring thing, and especially when you don't do this often anymore, and you're locked in that home life, you're not used to this. This is not something you do much anymore. So it's a little bit of a shock to the system a little bit. So, but at the same time, sometimes you need these moments. Sometimes you need to appreciate things, because you can't. I spoke about this in the past too on this show, that when you become a parent and become, you have a spouse and a parent and you have children and you have work, and it's always a rinse repeat of that every day. It is easy to get lost in everything else around you. It's because that's your life. Your life is kids, it's the spouse, it's work, and then whatever obligations you have to do around that. So the other extracurricular things that you would do or used to do before you got into that life, it kind of goes down by the wayside, and you don't remember how you used to live. So when you do something odd like that, that's odd at the moment anyway. It gets a little, it's a little weird. It gets a little like uncomfortable, but also it's kind of like, oh wow, this is okay. I get it now. And that was me. And that was me, honestly, that night, because I don't go out a lot to these kind of things. I just don't. Although my wife have discussed doing more concerts this year. Like, we got a couple bands we want to see this year that's coming to town. She mentioned Coy and Camber's coming down in July. I want to go to that show. The Red Hot Chili Peppers coming in August. I want to go to that show definitely. And there's a couple of the concerts I want to go to that she's not interested in going to. I will go myself probably. But we're trying to be more, and that's one of the things we were saying, that after come out of COVID, we want to make sure we are more active to some degree. Like, we can't do every event. We obviously can't do every event. It's just impossible. But if we can make an effort to do some events with friends and some events with me and her doing date nights like that, that's cool. That's something I would like to do more often. Because we're not getting younger, man. We're not getting younger, So, anyway, next thing here. So today, I actually, so what I've been doing since football ended a few weeks ago. This is one of the things I've obviously, when with this podcast, and then I started doing newer concepts on the podcast. When I started doing Football's Awesome, Football's Awesome was recorded most of the year on Tuesdays. Tuesday's the best day I can record podcasts, and so I record my 1 to 3, 1 p.m. 3 p.m. when the kids are in school. Have my 2-hour window, and then maybe at nighttime, depending if I want to do it. Well, I'll be able to record podcasts, and Football's Awesome typically takes. It's about 3 to 4 segments. If I do a solo segment on there as well too, but 3 to 4 segments, for an episode, which totals about an hour plus. So it takes a lot out of me, and then you have to also do editing stuff. So, and between that and other things I do around that, the fall is normally the hardest time for me. Fall/winter is the hardest time for me to have time to keep up with content, whatever content it is, whether it's stuff I'm watching in the moment, whether it's stuff that I want to watch, but I can't see to catch on. So a lot of content that I wanted to watch, I haven't been able to watch. And now that football's ended 2 weeks ago, I've been able, and now football's over. I haven't done any football shows since then. I've, between, my show and then doing I started doing every Tuesday night with our good friend Big James Neese, podcast All Up. I committed to doing that show every Tuesday as well at nighttime. Now that those things are on the back burner now because football's over, I've had more time to myself to catch my content. I've been watching old football games. I've been watching other documentaries and stuff I mentioned in the last podcast. I've been watching. They're fantastic. But I hadn't watched. There's been a bunch of documentaries I had not watched in quite a while on there. Documentaries I missed. And Michael Vick's was one of the ones I missed. And it's a 2-parter, both totaling an hour and a half, almost 2 hours. So I made a priority to watch it. I finished it today. It is a fantastic documentary, for example. Very honest. Vick's on there, especially, with family and friends that he's no longer friends with now. It goes into, obviously, his days of growing up in Newport, Virginia. It goes from there to, him going through high school and going to college and Virginia Tech, and Tech nearly beating my Florida State Seminoles in the 1999 Sugar Bowl. Thank God they didn't win that game, because I'm an Knowles fan, but he was fantastic. He was great in that game. And then him going drafted number 1 on the 2001 draft and revolutionizing the quarterback position. And then his downfall with the dogfighting. I would still encourage you to watch the documentary. You may come away something different with that, because I think one of the things that we don't give credit for is people who are really honest when they do something and then they're sorry about it, and they actually not only turn things around, they do it in a way where it's genuine and it's still, he's still, doing it where he's still promoting, animal cruelty rather. He's still doing it now. Retired. He's been retired like 5 years now, I think, and he's still promoting, doing work with the Humane Society still. I know a lot of friends of mine who are dog owners who despise Michael Vick, and I trust me, I'm not saying you're wrong for feeling that way. I mean, I own dogs. I own a dog, so when we heard about what happened there, in 2007 with the dog fighting and then the killing of the dogs and whatnot, I was disgusted myself. But I also understand the nuance of what that culture. I'm learning now that the culture of dog fighting and the culture of cockfighting, the culture of all these things. That it's a lot more. It's not as black and white as it seems. That there is a culture around that. Obviously, it's illegal, but that doesn't mean that people don't do it. And he got caught up in that. But I think also too, it's not just that, but it's also Michael Vick wanting to help everybody, as he came up and he became a millionaire, one of the highest paid athletes in at the time in the country. He wanted to bring up his people with him that was with him too, and which I get, but when you do that sometimes, and depending where you come from, that can be an issue. That could be something that can hold you back, and obviously it hurt him because when he was not in Virginia, at that home where they had the dogfighting going on, he was in Atlanta practicing and with the team and all that. You're entrusting your friends who you say you trust to do the right thing, and a lot of those guys weren't doing the right thing, and certainly protecting him because they were, between the drug charges and stuff, and then obviously because first off they while it was rumored about dogfighting, what got the FBI, what got the law enforcement involved into the dogfighting thing was the fact that one of his buddies got busted for drugs. And in the investigation of getting a warrant and investigating the drug situation is where they discovered the dogfighting and all the extra stuff. So it's important to know, be very careful, whether or not you're famous or not, be careful with the people you surround yourself with. Even the people that are, you may think, long friends and all that, you still need to be very careful who you associate with. You know what I mean? And this is the situation. This is a situation of a guy who was so hell bent on making sure his guys are taken care of, and I understand that, but it falls on you at the end of the day. And luckily today he's not friends with those guys, at least a bunch of those guys anyway. I know his friend Q, I think what his name was. I mean, he was in the documentary too. I mean, apparently they haven't spoken in about 10 years, which honestly, it's good on him. He didn't come off great, honestly. Even the things he was saying himself, trying to defend himself. Hey, he's being honest. He still thinks he would still do it. The dogfighting by himself. Yeah, he's not somebody I wouldn't want to associate with. And luckily, Vick, and which by the way, when Vick got out of jail and went to the Eagles and he was starting to reform himself and stuff and whatnot. They had the 30th birthday party he had for him, and then he was not supposed to be around Vick, and he somehow showed up to the party, and then it was a gunshot, and he was he got injured, and he wasn't supposed to be there in the first place, and that was Vick's sign that I shouldn't be associating with these people. I mean, that's just what it is. However, anyway, the point is the name of the documentary is Vick. It's been out 2 years now, but encourage you guys to watch it. Whether or not you love or hate Michael Vick, I think if you watch it, you might have a better sense of who he is and where he's come from. He's come a long way. And I'm really proud of him. He seems very genuine. The fact that he's still doing these things for the Humane Society years after retired, he's not even in the public eye anymore. He does stuff on, analyst work on FS1, but he's not involved, in the same way, day to day, and he's still doing, causes like this to address dogfighting and address cruelty as a whole. I think you should people who are even opposed to him, even more so, who are opposed to him, should watch this and at least get a better sense of who he is, because he's to me he comes very genuine. Because it's one thing to do it to get your job back, and then you do a couple of years and you go away. No, he's still doing it years later. He came back 12 years ago, and he's still doing this. You got to give him credit for that. So it's on ESPN Plus. Vick is the name of the documentary. Speaking of ESPN, and tonight is the return of the NBA. It also breaks over now tonight. We, as you know, this year is the 75th anniversary of the NBA. And early in the year, they really revealed their list. Now, the NBA 75 list is not in order. It's just the people that they feel are the best 75 players in NBA history. They didn't put an order in it. Now, this is obviously a dead period for sports right now because football just ended 2 weeks ago. NBA All-Star break is a week long, so there's nothing going on. Nothing going on. Hockey just got back because of the Olympics. Baseball's in a lockout. So, obviously, you need content. If anybody works in media will tell you this. You need content. So ESPN this week ranked the 75 players. They ranked them. I have right here on my phone. I'm going to go through the list real quick. And I looked at the rankings, and I'll say for the record, their top 6 is exactly as mine. The top 6 in order. Michael Jordan number 1, LeBron James number 2, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar number 3, Wilt Chamberlain number 4. Sorry. Magic Johnson number 4, Wilt Chamberlain number 5, and Bill Russell number 6. So they got that right, in my opinion. They got that right. But there were some in my opinion, some misses in here. They got Kobe Bryant. Late Kobe Bryant, number 10. Kobe Bryant on my list is number 8. I've actually flirted to put him at 7 because I have Tim Duncan number 7 and Kobe 8. But I've also go back and forth where I go maybe I put 7A, 7B, Kobe and Duncan, whatever. ESPN has Kobe number 10. 10 feels low. I know. So here's their top 10. As I told you, the top 6 already. I revealed the 6 already. They have. So 7 through 10 for ESPN. Number 7 is Larry Bird. Number 8 is Tim Duncan. Number 9 is Oscar Robertson. Number 10 is Kobe Bryant. Now, I don't have a problem with Oscar being in the top 10. He's not in my top 10 necessarily, but I don't have a problem with him either. I know how great he is. Larry Bird, I know my list, Larry Bird's number 9. And the only reason why I even ding Larry Bird that low, the only thing that hurt Bird was the injuries in the year. His peak was fantastic, but he didn't sustain long because of his back issues. So a lot of the guys who are on this list, for example, on top of the list, the reason why Kobe's higher on my list, the reason why Tim Duncan's higher on my list, the reason why guys like LeBron to my list is because longevity helps. And the fact that they're still playing 17, 18 years in the league at a high level still, it's got to be something you have to credit for. You have to credit that. Bill Russell played a long time too, especially. But Bird number 7, okay, I like I said, I'm not going to argue with it. I don't think it's necessarily wrong. It's not what I have. Big O's not my top 10, but he's my top 15. Let me see here. I've always struggled with Shaq. They have Shaq number 11. I had Shaq number 11 and 12 for years. Then I put him at number 10. Because I had Hakeem Olajuwon number 10 for a long time. And then I go back and forth with Shaq's impact. And I think I ding Shaq more on a personal level because of some personal bias towards him, against him, more so because of the guy. He's the guy that should be in the top 5, top 3. But he's not because he didn't take care of himself. Okay? But we can't knock for the things he did do correctly. His Orlando years. His Orlando years now have become very underrated, actually, if you think about it. So I had Shaq number 10/11. They got number 11. I think Isaiah Thomas is too low. They got Isaiah Thomas at number 20. Let me see here. Isaiah Thomas is at number 27. Isaiah Thomas is the only guy that beat Magic, Bird, and Jordan to win titles. That's not count something. Now, the only thing I could even consider dinging Isaiah for is, again, like Bird. He only played 12 years. Or 13. He came in 81, right? 81 came in the league, and he was out 92. 93. So, but he had an Achilles injury, and back then Achilles injuries were a death knell. But Isaiah won 2 titles back to back, which is, back then especially too, going back to back was not something that was very common. At least unless you had a super team. They could have won 3 in a row. The 88 finals, they should have beaten the Lakers, but they got screwed on in Game 6. Well, Game 7 rather. Obviously Isaiah has that Game 6 performance in that same finals. Fantastic performance all time. So he should be. To me, he should be top 20. Let's kill all that noise. To me, they have John Stockton number 24, and I think Stockton's great. Stockton's the top 5 point guard all time. We had this conversation on the In the Paint podcast we did a couple weeks ago. John Stockton should not be ranked higher than Isaiah Thomas. I'm sorry. I don't give a shit what he says. That should not happen. Okay? Period. In discussion. Karl Malone should rank higher than Isaiah Thomas. I mean, I'm going through the list here now. Steph Curry number 16. The big question coming out this week now is because Steph Curry cracked the top 10. His impact alone is going to help his case. He needs to win another MVP. He needs to win a Finals MVP to justify cracking that top 10, because he's had some really average Finals performances. Honestly, Kevin Durant won 2 Finals MVPs under his watch on the team, and then of course, Andre Iguodala won it in 2015 when the Warriors won it pre-Durant. So, who else on the list here? Trace McGrady's on the list at all, which I find weird. I know he didn't win a playoff series at all, but this is not about just accomplishments. It's also about being great. I can understand why he's on the list though. But yeah, ESPN's list. It's on their website. It's a good. They for the most part, I have a problem with the list. Dave Robinson, they have Dave Robinson number 25, which I thought was great. Dave Robinson's actually one of the most underrated centers. Dave Robinson would thrive in today's NBA, for the record. Yeah, the only thing that bothers me is Isaiah Thomas one, honestly. I feel like there's a lot of like anti-Zeke out there. I know because of the Jordan documentary. I know because of just the Knicks and all that, and him shitting on we're destroying the Knicks and whatnot. But Isaiah Thomas, man, in Detroit, at a time where you had Showtime Lakers dominating the sport, you had Birds Celtics still really, really great, and you come up with Michael Jordan. Isaiah somehow fit his way, 6'1", fit his way in those couple years. Detroit was a player. Detroit could won three in a row. That Pistons teams get disrespected so much. They really do. It's sad. It's sad to me personally. So, but check the list out. See if you agree. Tweet at me on social media if you agree or disagree with the list. I know I started a little thing on both my Facebook and my Instagram pages. Not Instagram. Facebook pages. Discussion about the top 25 and one there. And so if you agree with it, disagree with it. Stay in the NBA. As I said, returns tonight. Biggest story probably coming into the second half of this year, or also coming to the All-Star break, is the Lakers, LeBron James, and whatnot. I gotta be honest with you. And I love LeBron, obviously, but I think one thing is real now, and I think it's been clear. It's become more and more clear now. Like we definitely have LeBron James fatigue. Like in the same way, while Tom Brady is still great before he retired a couple weeks ago, there's still Brady fatigue to some degree. I think you have LeBron James fatigue for somewhat the wrong reasons, though, because a lot of people are softening LeBron because of the political things he says and all that recently, or perceived political things he says. But yeah, we're at that point now, and I think even people who love LeBron James in the media are starting to fess up to it now. I know Colin Cowherd has mentioned recently that he has LeBron fatigue, and I get it. We're at a point now where we want to see these new guys thrive, and to their credit, they are. Giannis has won a championship last year, and Steph Curry is fantastic right now, and you got Nikola Jokic and a couple of guys in the NBA. Joel Embiid is dominant right now, in my opinion, the MVP frontrunner right now. So we're seeing some pushback on the LeBron thing. I think this is definitely the last. I would say honestly, as great as LeBron is still individually, this is definitely the last. I'm going to say truly great LeBron year we're going to have, I think. I think by next year, especially if they lose, obviously the Lakers are right now, 4 games under 500 now as it is. AD's out 4 weeks. The Lakers could be, if not in the play-in game, maybe even out in the playoffs completely. And I think once that happens, again, I think we're going to get to the point now where people are going to just kind of move on from LeBron a little bit, like slowly, like. You're still seeing it a little bit now. LeBron obviously still is still a top player. I'm not gonna say he's the best player in basketball anymore. He's still a top guy in the league though. But the fatigue is real. The fatigue is real, and like I said, once you start seeing it in the media, because you start to see these forced conversations about LeBron and the Lakers now. Couldn't they turn things around? Is LeBron done? Was LeBron him and his son? And even in my case, as cool as it really is to have him be able to play with his son in his last year before he retires, if that actually plays out, I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't care. I just don't care. I'm kind of over it now. Like I can I say this without sounding like a complete prick, that LeBron James is no longer interesting to me anymore. And that's me acknowledging that he's one of the greats of all time. That's acknowledging he's number 2 all time. But we've now gone through this road with LeBron since 2004, and the Cleveland thing, and then him going to Miami, and this, and all these narratives through the years, and these ebbs and flows, and I think people are just tired of it now. I think people are burnt out on it and want something fresh and new. This is why you see people gravitating towards Joel Embiid and, like I said, the Steph Curry still, and that's still a thing and whatnot. I think people are kind of over the drama. I think people are just kind of over it. I mean, and the fact that Lakers stink now this year, it makes it even more, I guess, during the point, But I personally, this is not so much of a thing about, I hate LeBron. No, I love LeBron James. I think LeBron's one of my favorite players of all time. But we're now 19 years in this thing now. We're kind of over it now, a little bit. Some water, sorry. Anyway, want to talk Tulsi Gabbard a little bit. Somebody that I've been praising the last couple of years in the political sphere. But I've also, like LeBron, a little bit of fatigue now with her, just a little bit. So Tulsi Gabbard is a Democratic, now former Democratic congresswoman. She was also a former presidential candidate in 2020. Someone that I really, as I watched that whole process play out, someone I really would have voted for if she had made it to the general. If I was a Democrat, I would vote for her in the primaries probably. Excuse me. But she's also now become a darling of the right because of some of her, I guess, common sense views. I also think some of it to also the fact that the right, there's been a lot of pushback against her from the Democratic Party, from the Hillarys of the world and whatnot, and she's found some, traction from people who are on the right side of the aisle, which I don't think is a bad thing either, because I always promote discourse anyway on this, whenever I do, that you should open up conversations with people you don't agree with, so that way that's how things get done. Yeah, I know it sounds very naive on my part, but who gives a shit? That's just what I feel, and I agree with. You don't have to agree with me, and that's okay. I mean, there's a lot of things probably things I do you don't agree with, and that's okay too. Just don't, as long as you don't, as long as you're okay with the discourse, which that's my whole thing. She's had now, a toehold now. She's definitely had a stronghold now in terms of she's a regular now on Fox News. She's always on Fox News. She is their what they consider their left-leaning, point of view. Want to call that? Which again, I think that's a good thing to have. I think MSNBC and CNN should have people on the right on their platforms to talk about things, and it's healthy for stations and media that actually promote debate culture and we should debate this and this and that. That is a positive, not a negative, in my opinion. Having diverse people across your platform, and Tulsi's found a little home now with the right. Now, I wouldn't consider her a conservative, but now we hear the news this week that she's going to CPAC. she's one of the guest speakers to CPAC, but I think it's next week or this week. I don't follow CPAC, but I just found out a couple days ago that she's going there, and it got me thinking: is she considering a change to that side of the aisle? Is she considering changing her from Democrat Republican, or is this CPAC maybe starting to wisen up and actually diversify, some things there? I don't know. What I do know is this. She's been very critical of Joe Biden recently, with his handling of the Ukraine situation now. Obviously, Russia just invaded Ukraine this morning. Some issues also she's had issue with Biden as of late, and this is someone who actually endorsed Joe Biden in 2020. She endorsed Joe Biden. it's hard for me to know what's going on, because the thing is, there's also a lot of grifters too. Not just her, but I'm not saying she is, but there's a lot of people in that world that find a lane that they know where their bread's buttered at that point, and they stick that lane. You know, see a lot of those in social, a lot of those in media on both sides of the aisle. You know, on the right, you have Candace Owens, who I think is a grifter. I've been saying for years now, grifter. Clay Travis, grifter, in my opinion. Dave Rubin, grifter. You know, things of that nature. And you see the patterns, and you know, and there's someone on the left also too, for the record, that do it. So it's not exclusive to the right. But to me, this is a little more, I guess for me personal to some degree, because I actually like Tulsi Gabbard. I think she's actually a good voice of common sense to have around. I agree with a lot of her, especially her domestic ideas. I agree with her on. She's pro universal healthcare. I've now gone that route now. She's pro UBI. I'm there as well too. She's liberal on the things. She's very liberal on the things I care about, but also common sense on the things I care about as well too. So she kind of has this almost centrist type of, you know, ideals. Again, this is kind of the problem though with also having two parties as well. You know, that people are very easy to say, well, if this person's Republican, they itemize all these issues, and Democrats, same thing, and that's not necessarily true. It's not necessarily true. You know, if I was a Democrat, for example, I'd be considered a blue dog Democrat who's more conservative. If I was a Republican, I'd be considered more of a left leaning Republican, because I'm very much down the middle when it comes to certain issues. You know, depending on policy. But I don't know. I don't know. Is she a grifter? Is she not? I don't know. I can't speak on that. I'm not gonna. I'm trying to look at the patterns and see if maybe I'm seeing something. I'm not missing something. I know my friends who know I like her have been texting me saying, she there she is. She's a whack job. This and that. I'm not there yet. I can't go there yet. But I'm watching. Let's say I'm just watching. You know, and we'll see how it goes. All right. One more thing before I get out of here. So as I've been telling you, since Joe Biden became president, I've been kind of like stiff-arming the whole political thing for a little while, because after Trump, it was a little bit burnt out and all that. But I'm kind of inching back in some of the conversations going on in the political world, because, you know, you still have to keep an ear on what's going on. So for the last year or so, one of the big talking points in politics, and especially, you know, involving, you know, race and all that, is this thing called critical race theory. I know a lot of people on the right are against it. They don't like the idea. They think it's indoctrinating people to hate America, and to hate, you know, and to feel guilty and things. And a lot of people on the left push this because it's opening conversations about discomfort about talking about race and whatnot, and how that's embedded into our system. I've been trying to study what exactly it means. I'm trying to filter out all the noise on both sides and try to figure out, okay, what exactly does this actually entail? Is this something that we should be taught and whatnot? And what I will say is this, is that I've been really watching much of the, like, Bill Maher's of the world and John Oliver's as of late, and same with some people on the right I listen to once in a while. But John Oliver just did a 28-minute thing on critical race theory, breakdown on that. It's actually, if you don't have HBO, it's no big deal. You can watch that entire clip on his YouTube page. It's on there. And to me, was the best if you get past all the political shit, because obviously it's a left-leaning show, so you can get a lot of, like, bashing the right thing in there. But if you get past all that and just stick to the information itself, it's actually the best explained definition of critical race theory. Now, I think the one debate I think people have more than anything else, I know a lot of friends who are against critical race theory or against the teachings and whatnot, is more so not so much the teachings, but more so when should people learn this stuff? Like, is it appropriate for kids to, like, my kids, like, age 8 and 4, are they of age to learn this stuff? And, you know, and that's a good argument to have. Like, if you want to have an argument about when this should be taught this stuff, I can roll with that to some degree. But I think I'm also comfortable with people pushing back on things they have no idea about, and then when I ask them, it's literally the opposite of what I've been learning, because of the discomfort. Because a lot of people in this country, people, whoever while you're on, who think that America's perfect, everything's great, no big deal. Just not talk about race anymore. And I get that. I hate talking about race. I think talking about race is annoying now because that's all I fucking do with people. Not me, but that's all you hear is about race. And I get it. You think I want to hear talk about race all fucking time? I don't. But at the same time, it is a reality of our lives. It's embedded in our system. I mean, how things are operated in this country for generations upon generations, it always impacted race. So you may not like hearing about it, but I hate having to go through it all the time. And for the record, I'm not someone that likes to tag myself in that all the time and play the victim. I don't do that shit. But there are moments where you have to be very careful, and moments where sometimes things are said and like, whoa, okay, slow up. You know what I mean? Slow up. But I what I will say, is I will encourage you to watch that piece on John Oliver's show last week tonight, actually, is the name of the show. But because I think that is going to be is actually the best, well explained, what critical race theory really is. I mean, if you're not learning, if you're not watching, if you're not listening, you're not learning. And I always encourage that, regardless of who's saying it to you. You can listen to it and not agree with it. That's fine. As long as you took the time to listen to it, that's fine. But everybody hates to hear about race all the time, and I totally get that. I totally get that. But but make sure if you're gonna critique something, make sure you're critiquing the right thing. Make sure you're saying, okay, yeah, because this and that, and you're getting it correct. Because people who are anti-critical race theory, when they say they don't agree with it, when I ask what it actually means, it's literally the complete opposite of what it actually means. And you're not anti-American because you actually agree with some of the things they say on there. Because we're not perfect. The day you start thinking this country is perfect and is absolved of anything, whatnot, we're it's a problem. It's a problem. So I would encourage you guys to watch that piece on John Oliver. If you have any questions, just get back to me, of course. So didn't mean to bring this podcast to a downer. So let me get out of here. By the way, before I go, also too, I haven't a chance to talk about this actually on this show. So we'll have halftime show from 2 weeks ago with Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg and Kendrick Lamar. Gotta say, it's definitely top 10 all time. I'm gonna put it in top 5. Let it simmer a couple of years, and maybe I'll change my mind. Well, it's top 10 performance, but I am uncomfortable with the fact that of all performers on that, the people who are the person whose performance that impressed me the most is Kendrick Lamar. Kendrick Lamar to me was the highlight of the whole thing. His section was probably the best part of the whole thing, and he's getting no love for it. Can I just say that? Can we give Kendrick Lamar some love, please? That was the best part of the entire halftime show. Like, I love Snoop, I love Dre. Obviously, Eminem was great. Mary J was fantastic, for the record. 50s, whatever. I'm not a really big 50 guy of a couple songs. It was great, though. It was great. You know why it was good, though, also, too? Because that reason performance is really, really good because it didn't try hard. Like, that's just one of my fears. I was saying, one of my fears of going into the Super Bowl halftime show was that the hype was so big that it wouldn't match the expectations. Because I had lower expectations, lower. Because I had milder expectations of the halftime show, because I knew it would be decent, I was able to enjoy it and not have to worry about overselling it and then overreacting to it. You know what I mean? It was good. I enjoyed it. It was fantastic. Top 10, top 5, I have to wait a couple years before I start thinking about that. Like, for me, these things have to marinate. Like, I have Prince 1, Michael Jackson 2. People surprised I say that because I'm an MJ guy through and through. MJ's performance is definitely the most impactful of all because, I mean, what he did there using his platform to promote, world peace and, and unity and all that. But performance-wise, I mean, I'm sorry, Prince doing, playing in the rain, and, I mean, fantastic. I mean, you can't beat that. I'm sorry. So my top 5, if you guys that don't know my top 5 all the time, it's Prince, it's Michael, it's Bruno Mars, it's U2, and I think I have Beyonce in my 5. But I'll tell you what, though, right on the tail end of that, Lady Gaga's up there, too. Lady Gaga was really good. And I think Katy Perry was pretty decent those 2 couple years ago. So Anyway, I think that's it. It's about 45 minutes of podcast time. Of course, I'm on Twitter at EJChristen7, Earnest Speaking Media on YouTube, Earnest Speaking Podcast, of course, on all podcast catchers. Look out for all the newer concepts we're doing. Like I said, we had the football concept we did this year. We started doing in-paint concept already. Take the Wrestling's obviously on this feed now, especially. We do every Thursday, every Friday. We drop every Friday. We're actually, I'm going to announce it now. New concept called the Vibe Lounge, which is actually going to be a pop culture concept. We can do like pop culture like rankings and drafts and reactions, all that stuff. These are all part of the Freaking Podcast. These are going to be all concepts away from what we do, my regular podcast do here. So look out for that. That's coming in the next couple of weeks. So look out for that. Until then, I said, EJChristen7 on Twitter, YouTube, find me, subscribe anywhere you can. Love you guys. Take care. And until next one. Later.